During my talks, I'll be starting and ending the day, but otherwise just moderating maybe one panel per day. But after running the Investor Club for 17 years, we've had 2,000 speakers on stage, and so far, I've not missed a single one of our events. I'm sure it'll happen at some point, but from everything we've learned, I'm going to be sharing just 15-minute talks to start and end each day. And my goal is that you're going to hear from 100 plus speakers on stage and make lots of connections. But my goal is to give you $100,000 worth of insights that you can put into place right now, whether you're an investor or somebody who's CEO of a company or raising capital. And that's the goal in my talks. And that'll be my goal this morning, making sure that you maximize your ROI out of being with us here today. So I may start going through a few of those things, but near the end of the event on Saturday, I'm going to be going over a recent interview I did with Dr. Robert Cialdini, who's kind of the godfather of influence and ethical influence. And he provided the #1 influence strategy for the busiest founders and wealthiest families in the world, or CEOs of companies who are trying to buy or invest in as an investor, and a way to be 16 times more effective in trying to get someone to allow you to invest or sell you their company or to invest in your offering, etc. So I'm excited to share those insights with you, and I'm excited for you to be here with us today. Okay, so a little bit on myself. This is my wife and I in Machu Picchu. We had about 10 investors there, several months ago, like doing outdoor activities. These are my 3 daughters in Hawaii. That's my 10-year-old getting a surfboard for her birthday, so they were excited about that before heading out for school. I literally like long walks on the beach. This is the little Half Moon Bay area. Right in the middle of that is where we're based there in Hawaii. So we like to do outdoor adventure stuff pretty much as often as we can. It's my brother and some friends and an investor with us in the Grand Canyon and in Nepal at Everest Base Camp. So a few statistics real quick if you're new to Family Office Club. Again, my name is Richard Wilson. We spent about $25 million hosting our events these last 17 years. We have 16 million social media group members, mostly on LinkedIn. About 90% of the 16 million are on LinkedIn. And we just passed 1 million YouTube subscribers as well. We'll get to the rest of this stuff in a minute here. This is the breakdown of the investors here in the room today. There's around 40% of the room is investors here at our events. We try to aim for 33% or better of the room being investors on stage. It's usually 70% to 75% investors you're hearing from on stage. And we took that model because it's the opposite of what a lot of other family office groups do, where they charge the family offices 15, 30 grand a year, but then on stage is mostly people pitching and not as many peers and investors, et cetera. So we kind of flipped that model on its head when we got started. One thing I've realized is that family offices really are just founders who won the game of capitalism. They either learned how to produce 7 or 8 figures in income, or they had a capital gain, and they sold their business or sold part of their portfolio, part of their company to private equity, or took a company public, which is the same as selling part of your company. So it's really just about founders that have elevated and they're so successful that they need to now organize their financial affairs. And when people start a business, you typically work in the business, then you learn to work on the business, and a family office is a founder that's learned to work on their businesses and investments. So it's just a higher level founder, essentially, is the family office industry. So we're all here as peers in the sense of being founders of companies, or we're investors, and we're all looking to learn from each other. We've had Kevin Harrington, who's on the first 2 seasons of Shark Tank. He created As Seen on TV. He's closed over 1,000 deals, and we did a fireside chat on stage with him on what he's learned after negotiating 1,000 transactions and deals that he's closed himself. So that's a good example of what we try to provide here at Family Office Club. We try to be a perpetual learning machine for everybody who's here in the room. Looking for what are the mental models that you could take from today to help you scale faster. Growing your capital network, investors that you could conduct due diligence with or invest alongside or raise capital from is obviously one benefit of any investor club. One thing often overlooked is deal structure. Structuring a deal differently can make all the difference of whether right now is a very hard time or not, or whether you're protected by collateral or not, or whether you're capped on the upside or not. Having the right mindset. We had Paul Hutchinson, who is an executive producer and the one who funded The Sound of Freedom. He's rescued over 6,000 children, mostly in Colombia, from human slavery. He spoke at our event about 6 months ago, and he's going to be coming back, we believe, at the Ritz-Carlton for our annual event in December to do a fireside chat. But he managed billions of dollars and then stopped doing that to address, human slavery. And the first thing he said, I've managed $10 billion in real estate. The most important real estate is the 6 inches between your ears. And so family offices know you would not be a successful founder unless you have the right mindset. So I'm going to give a whole talk on family office mindset during this event as well, as one of my 15-minute talks, and things that I'm trying to emulate from the most successful founders I've met while being here. Hope you meet some fun friends and peers that you can just keep in touch with in the room as well. One thing I found is that the people who get the most business done are not the ones who are most aggressive as a salesperson. They're not promising the highest returns. They're the ones who other people see as a class act human that they want to do business with, someone that people like, they can relate to. And what's interesting is that I asked Robert Cialdini, who studied the science of influence and persuasion for 45 years, what is the master skill of influence and persuasion? What is the number one most powerful thing? I'm going to share 15 other insights on Saturday about this, but he said that above everything else, you are the most influential if you have an ethical reputation. Are you going to do the right thing so I can put my guards down and actually do business with you? And that's really core to this slide, which I've been showing at our events for several events now, maybe a year or so. And it's exactly in line with that. So that's who people want to do business with. People who do not know what they're doing in raising capital, they rush around the room saying, I've got the best deal you've ever seen. We're going to do this multi-billion-dollar deal here or there, and the returns are the best you've ever seen. Or they might even say what's equivalent to saying the word bomb on an airplane, it's guaranteed, right? So always just know that people want to build a relationship, right? They're not here to find the best deal they've ever seen unless it's with one of the best people they've ever met at an investment conference, right? So I've got a couple partners that are Eagle Scouts by chance. I'm the 3rd generation Eagle Scout. And so we were talking one time on the phone about the values of our company and who we want to work with. We were choosing between 2 partners who both wanted to give them $3.8 million. Instead of raising capital from a bunch of investors, they got all the money from one investor through structuring a co-GP deal, which is back to what we were talking about a couple slides ago about learning new structures. And we said, well, there's the Scout Law, which is basically just the Boy Scout values. And we basically said, if you don't follow the Scout Law, then you're an outlaw, and we don't do business with you. Like kind of half jokingly, but it's related to the last slide. You can see the values there up on the slide. And I think those are good to show in a community like this, just to kind of set the tone of we want to have a really high quality community that's enjoyable for everybody to be part of. And I think that being in alignment with those types of values are good for everybody in the rooms. So some of you may enjoy watching golf. Some of you enjoy playing golf. I found that even people that enjoy playing it rarely like to watch it on TV too much unless they're just a golf fanatic. And, to each their own. But in general, most people would probably say watching an F1 race is a bit more quick-paced, more things happening per second. And so we try to have our events be like that. Our longest speaker throughout the whole event is going to speak for 20 minutes. Every other speaker is speaking for 15 minutes. On discussion panels, we have 5 or 6 people on the panel. Our goal is to maximize your connections. Nobody's going to come up here and give a 50-minute presentation on gold and show you macroeconomic graphs. Nobody's a professor and was chosen to speak because of their textbook expertise. People are here to make connections, get deals done, and that's just the model that we've gone with to keep everything practical and exciting. I don't want to get bored coming to my own event, and so that's kind of a litmus test for making sure that we keep things moving all along the way. We have 0 paid speakers. When you see billionaires and centimillionaires on stage at our events, for example, tomorrow, Bonnie and Michael on stage, they started Barefoot Wines from 0, and they got it to 500 million in revenue. We're going to do a fireside chat. We're not paying them as a paid speaker. Same with the only billionaire from Nepal who's speaking at our annual event in December. And we have someone speaking today who's a member of our club, had never raised money, raised $8 million, bought a company, and they sold it recently for over $100 million, 3.5 years later. So they're going to be speaking later today on stage. None of them are paid speakers. And it's important you know that because there's nothing really wrong with having paid speakers, but the intent is they came here to actually meet you and to get things done and build their network. And that's the value of a real, genuine community versus getting a former Army general up here to tell you some self-improvement tips. It should be more genuine and business scaling, investor founder related. We want to thank Dan Pinkerton. He's been honing his craft for 37 years. He has over 50 tactical asset portfolios. I'm going to introduce him in just a minute. He's going to come up and give the morning talk here. But he is our title sponsor. We just want to thank him for helping us get to the nice venue here in Brooklyn. So appreciate that, Dan. Saturday is what we're referring to as kind of investor day at the event this week, because we're going to have a higher percentage of investors and a much lower percentage of sponsors on Saturday. And then we're also going to have an extended networking lunch. So we're going to serve cocktails with the lunch that's served and have an hour and a half, 2-hour networking session during that time. And that's where I'm going to be giving the Robert Cialdini insights on investor influence as well. So I hope you'll be with us on Saturday. Should be a great day, and you can be out of here at 1:45, 2 o'clock, 2:30. Probably 2:30 or so. The networking will probably die down. There's dozens of examples of deals that have gotten done in the room, anywhere from somebody going from 30 million to 130 million of AUM because they met one billionaire here in the room that just 4 times the size of their company in just a year and a half, and they had spent 7 years building their business, and they met one person that changed everything. That was a much bigger number. But if you meet someone that writes you a $3 million check, that's equal to you leaving here today, meeting 30 investors that gave you $100,000 each, because you met one person that gave you $3 million. So think about any family office community is that you may meet someone who only wants to invest $50,000 or $100,000. Someone might start with $100,000 and then put in $1 million later. Or you may meet someone, and it may take 9 months, may take 18 months, and maybe you never meet the person, but you could meet someone that completely changes the whole trajectory of your business or even your whole life. And it could just be an idea, and it's not the money, it's the investment structure, it's the idea, it's their approach, it's the great way someone described what they're doing, whether they are in the gold niche or they are a wealth advisor or something else. So I would just keep that in mind as you're moving along. To maximize your investment here today, we are aligned with you in you maximizing your time. So if you have a great time, then you're going to be coming back. And most investors want you to know these things as well. One is, don't assume you know who's an investor and who's not based on how they introduce themselves. Many people might say, you might ask them what they do, and they might say, oh, we own a couple of gas stations. But they might own 120 gas stations, or maybe they just sold their 40 gas stations, right? The wealthiest people, more often than not, are not the ones beating their chest as hard. And sometimes the people who are trying to look the biggest are the ones who actually need the money more, and that's why they need to puff out their chest a little bit more, right? So investors usually have a lot of people coming at them. They don't need more of that unless strategically they see a way of working specifically with you. So they oftentimes are many times humble or a little bit under the radar, etc. So add value to others first, be kind and polite, but also concise and not long-winded. A lot of people to connect with in the room. So just be respectful of that. As investors come off the stage, they'll be flowing out this way and through the double doors. And just be respectful of the other people waiting to connect with them a bit. And just know that many, many times people come up to me at the end of the event and they say, oh, was there anyone here that invests in tech or healthcare or real estate? And I'll ask them if they saw discussion panels, 2, 8, or 12. They'll say, oh, no, I was busy networking out back. And that's fine, but the people on the stage are being asked what they invest in, what structures they prefer. So you're not only missing all of that intelligence by trying to network too hard, maybe, you're missing the perfect investor who said they want exactly what you're doing. And if you're like me, you can have good intentions of watching the video recording later, but life is moving at 50 miles per hour all the time, especially if you had kids, a spouse, a business, employees, all that. And it's quite unlikely you're going to go back and watch every discussion panel later that you missed, right? It's just the reality of a busy life for most people. So just keep that in mind, please, in terms of not missing too much of what the discussion panelists say. And just know that unless you're selling something, raising capital for something, and you're just asking for a $10,000 check, quite likely you're not going to pitch them and sell them and close them all here at this event. It's about planting a seed, building a relationship. Maybe there's a way for you to help them first, or for you to help them with a connection, a strategy, a client for their core business, etc. So please keep that in mind. Probably a number one mistake people make is coming to an event and just having their hat on of like, you know, let's say if they're raising capital for a fund or something, they're like, I have a fund, I need an LP investor. And they're only thinking that way when they could make a friend who could get them 40 LP investors. One of our members here met a CPA, and that CPA referred him 42 investors, where if he was only looking for LPs, he would have missed out on 42 investors. Or someone that could be a $3 million, $10 million investor, or a new strategy, a new structure. Maybe they like to do direct deals, not a fund. So just keeping all of that, being open-minded. The other one is going around and saying, do you have money? Are you an investor? Are you an investor? Because like people are gonna say, nope, I think they're over there, you know, because they don't want like the hardcore cornered pitch, right? So just keep that in mind as well. The number one overlooked thing by investors is investment structures and getting really sharp on that. That rabbit hole goes really deep. Just keep an eye out for notes about that over the whole event. And it's really the combination of everything you've learned to date as a founder, and then always stacking new mental models, modifying the strategies that you're using over and over and over again, that you really sharpen the saw to be very effective in the niche you're in a way that's really genuine with the DNA of your background and what got you to the success that led you here today. So I appreciate everyone's attention during the event. Keep in mind that there'll be some things on stage you know, but by having a higher conviction level, maybe you have the courage to actually do what you know you need to do, even though it might be a little bit painful or unpopular or against what the herd is doing right now. If you do what everyone else is doing, at best, you're going to be really good at being average. So as a CEO and entrepreneur, you have to do things that are innovative, unique. To other people may appear risky, but the biggest risk might be being average and not performing well. All right, that's it from my talk. I'm now excited to introduce Dan Pinkerton to the stage. If you get to know Dan, he's a much more outgoing, social, enjoyable person to have a dinner with. I have several times before. He's a great guy. And many times when we have sponsors that speak, I can tell who's natural at making connections and who's really been doing what they're offering to others for a very long period of time. And Warren Buffett says that it's hard for others to compete with him because he doesn't switch what he does every 5 or 7 years. He's been doing the same thing for 50 plus years while he competes with other people who are hired gun CEOs at big conglomerates. And I see that in Dan, and that he's been doing what he's doing at Pinkerton Wealth Management for 37 years now. And anytime you do something for more than 10 years straight, 20 years straight, 30 years straight, the number of people that are competing with you on all the nuanced lessons you learn become relatively small. And so whether it's custom, passive income type portfolio, or you're a wealth advisor here, and there's a way for your RIA to work with Dan. Hope you enjoy his talk here this morning. And Dan, thank you for being here and supporting the event. Welcome to the stage.